initial triage questions. Is the patient cooperative, uncooperative, combative? I asked her name, her mental status, where she was. I asked her if she was suicidal, and if she was, did she have a plan? Did she want to hurt anyone else? Those are kind of the initial triage questions that I would ask.
Why do you ask those questions?
Just to get a kind of a judgment on the patient, reading the patient.
What's your role at that point? Are you an investigator?
I'm not.
Are you in any way law enforcement?
I'm not.
So what's your focus when you're speaking to a patient?
It's basically hearing them speak in their story. In this specific situation, we didn't know circumstances. We just knew that Miss Reed had found her husband, which she was calling dead on the side of the road. So it was a traumatic call.
So when you were there, you knew nothing about what had happened before you got there?
We did not.
And your role had nothing to do with any of that investigation?
We did not.
You were solely focused on caring for the patient?
Correct.
Did you have any other role other than caring for the patient?
Just making sure she got to the hospital safely. She didn't hurt herself.
During those conversations, are you and firefighter Whitley doing the same thing or different things?
Again, it depends on the call. I was the lead tech, so I'm the one documented, giving a report to the nurses, the staff. So I was more kind of getting that information, my initial triage questions, and then just kind of sat and supported Miss Reed. And
were you writing down information, technical information about status and health on a report?
I was, yes.
While you were doing that, was your colleague speaking to Miss Reed?
He was.
Did you have a chance at times to hear what they were speaking about?
Yeah, and no.
At other times, did you speak directly to Miss Reed?
I have.
Can you describe her demeanor, her temperament?
Initially, she was agitated because she didn't feel like she needed to go to the hospital. She said the statement she made, she didn't mean. She just kind of said in jest because of the events that she went through. But then there'd be periods of which she'd be calm, and then it would fluctuate. She would have like pressured speech, repetitive, but all in all, she was cooperative.
At some point, did you have a chance to speak to her directly about her mood?
About her mood?
About her mood.
I don't know if I understand the question.
Okay. Did she say anything to you about her last interaction with what she referred to as her husband?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did she make any statements to you when you were giving her treatment or speaking to her about her husband?
Objection.
I'll allow that. It came in.
One of the reasons why she was saying suicidal stuff is because the last conversation she had with her husband at the time was an argument. I didn't feel like it was my role to really find out the details on what was said, but that's what she said to me.
That the last thing she said to him was an argument?
Objection.
Yep.
Sustained.
Did she tell you what the argument was about?
She did not.
Inevitably, did you get a chance to bring her to the hospital?
We did.
Did you stay in the back of the ambulance with her?
I did.
Did you continue to have conversations with her?
Yes, I did.
Did you hear conversations or parts of conversations she was having with your colleague?
I had parts.
When you got to the hospital, what happens next?
So we brought Miss Reed into the hospital, registered her, bring her to the psychiatric section.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay. Mr. Jackson?
Thank you, Honor.
I have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Firefighter Becker.
Good afternoon.
When you first arrived at the scene, there was at least two Canton police officers there, still.
Correct.
Do you remember their names?
Officer Saraf and Officer Mulvaney.
Okay. Their cruiser was there. You said that an engine was still there?
Correct.
And was there another ambulance there, or the other ambulance had already left the scene? They'd cleared?
They had already transported to the hospital.
Remind me, you were in ambulance two?
Two. I was ambulance 2.
Got it. You parked behind the SUV where you ultimately made contact with Miss Reed, correct?
I think it was more in front of the SUV because of the way the SUV was parked.
Got it. Got out of the ambulance, ultimately made contact with Miss Reed through the passenger door,
Correct.
had a short conversation with her there.
I did.
You said it was maybe 5 to 8 minutes?
More like 5 minutes because of the weather conditions.
Okay, nothing of great consequence. I'm guessing just an initial, I think you called it sort of a triage assessment?
Well, it was more of just introducing myself and asking her how she was doing.
Got it. And then there was one other person in the cab of the vehicle as well.
There was.
Female, male.
Female.
So there are two females, one Miss Reed, one another female. Did you see any other civilian females out there?
I didn't see.
Okay,
But
so at least where you were, the contact that you had with Miss Reed and this other female, there was just two of them, not a third one.
from what I saw, correct.
Did you get the other female's name?
Not at the time, I did not.
Okay. By the way, have you since gotten her name?
Based on a conversation Firefighter Whitley and Miss Reed had back in the ambulance.
Got it. Okay. And who is that other person? That other
Miss
female?
Carrie Roberts.
Okay. When you first observed Miss Reed, did you note whether or not there was anything unusual about her physical appearance, meaning anything on her?
She did, yes.
Describe that for the jurors, please.
She had some blood around her mouth, her neck area.
At that point, were you concerned about, obviously you're concerned mainly about her safety and getting her safely to the hospital, correct?
That's correct.
Were you worried that that might be her blood?
Well, she had said that she had given CPR to her husband.
Okay, you jumped a question ahead. I was going to say, did she tell you that it was in fact not her blood?
She did, so that kind of, in a way, ruled it out.
Okay.
No injury for me.
And you didn't notice anything about her that looked like she was physically injured or physically in harm?
I did not.
Okay. She indicated that she had given CPR, mouth-to-mouth, attempts at mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
She did.
And that would account for the blood on her face and in her hair and on her neck?
That's what she told me.
Okay. And based on your observations of her, you didn't have any reason to quarrel with that?
Correct.
Okay. You indicated that her tone was somewhat rapid and repetitive. Is that right?
It fluctuated, so at times it was, yes.
Did it appear to you at that time that she had gone through a pretty significant trauma, as best you were trained at the time?
Objection.
A little bit more of a foundation, I'll give it to you.
Sure. Have you ever, in your course of training, seen individuals who have gone through some sort of a traumatic event?
Frequently.
Frequently.
Everyone's different, though.
Understood. Obviously, everybody's got their own personalities and the way of dealing with those things, right?
Sure.
Have you been able to, through your training, assess whether, at least in your belief, your observations, if someone has gone through a relatively traumatic event, as opposed to just someone whistling down the sidewalk?
Yeah.
Okay. Did it appear at that time when you're interacting with Miss Reed that she was showing the signs consistent of having gone through a trauma?
At the time, yes.
Okay. So hence the rapid speech, the repetitive speech, things of that nature?
Correct, for her. For the defendant, some people don't have repetitive
Understood.
speech.
I'm just talking about your observations of her at that time.
Yes, yes, sir.
Her demeanor was consistent with having gone through a significant trauma.
For the situation, sure, yes.
Oh, okay. You said that she went from calmness to agitation. The agitation you accounted for being, I don't necessarily want to go to the hospital, I don't want to be sectioned, correct?
She felt like she didn't need to. It wasn't, she wasn't going to act on her comments about wanting to harm herself.
You called it, I think in a report, it's SI, suicidal ideation?
Correct.
That's obviously of great concern to you and your partners when you're assessing a patient, correct?
That's right.
You don't want to leave someone on their own if they're going to self-harm, correct?
That's correct.
You pretty quickly assessed, I'm guessing, Firefighter Becker, that she was not, in fact, in the position to self-harm, that I think you said that the statements that she originally made, if John dies, I don't want to live, were not necessarily at the level of actual suicidal ideation. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, at the time I believed her because of the information we got and what she went through.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand your answer.
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Of course. It's probably my fault. At the time that you assessed her, even though she had made some comments about if John doesn't live, I don't want to live either, you did not elevate that to the level of her being suicidal at that moment.
So I couldn't rule it out, but
Okay.
I didn't think it was a huge threat at the time.
Understood.
But
That's
we
what I was trying to get at.
couldn't rule it out, so that's why we had to take her to the hospital.
Understood. I mean, you had a Section 12. You had to take her irrespective of what you ruled in or out, right?
Right.
Okay. Firefighter Whitley was with you in the back of the ambulance the entire time you were with Miss Reed, correct?
Not the entire time. He was before we decided transporting. He was kind of in and out, trying to find more of, talking to the police officers, find more of a story of, what happened,
Okay.
why we're taking the defendant on a Section 12.
Once you and Miss Reed were in the back of the ambulance, Firefighter Whitley then joined you in the back of the ambulance?
He did.
How much time lapsed?
It was a couple minutes at the most.
Okay, so it wasn't a lengthy amount of time.
It wasn't lengthy.
And he was with you during the transport, along with Miss Reed, for the whole transport back to Good Sam.
It's a good, yes,
And you said on direct examination, I think your phrase was, all in all, she was cooperative with us.
for the majority of the transport, yes.
Okay. Never became combative, never got physical, nothing like that.
No,
Okay. She did refer to Mr. O'Keefe as her husband or her spouse.
that's correct.
You're aware of HIPAA rules, obviously. You're in the medical field, correct?
Correct.
You were aware at the time that HIPAA rules would demand or dictate that unless you're a spouse or a parent or a child, there's certain rules against getting or providing information to someone who isn't one of those close family members, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You previously indicated on direct examination that, I think your words were, that Ms. Reed indicated that her last conversation she had with her husband was an argument, correct?
Correct.
You've previously testified about that statement in other particulars, right? Other hearings.
I have.
You're paraphrasing. You didn't write down what she said about her previous interactions with Mr. O'Keefe, and you didn't record those on a tape recorder, correct?
I wrote down in my report that she said she had an argument.
Right. You didn't write them down at the time. That was a bad question on my part. You weren't taking notes as she was speaking.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, it's kind of for every call, we jot down notes on a notepad, just
Okay.
so, when we give the staff a report, we can read off it.
Do you have those notes?
I don't.
Okay. Do you think you took notes or no?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I could have been typing them on the computer. That's what we typed the report on
Okay.
at the time.
Do you have an independent recollection of taking notes, either handwritten or on a computer, as you sit here right now?
I couldn't tell you if I did one or the other. Sometimes
Okay.
I write on the computer, sometimes I don't.
Or you might not have written anything down, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, in any event, you weren't taking down, even if you were taking notes, you weren't taking down verbatim quotes of what she was saying. You were paraphrasing the information that was coming to you, correct?
That's correct.
All right. You had previously said or testified that the last time, let me rephrase that just a little bit. You previously indicated in recounting what it was that Miss Reed actually said to you was something along the lines of she was upset because her last words to him were, because of her last words to him being in anger.
I object.
I'm going to allow the question.
Is that correct?
Well, I probably phrased it a little wrong. wrongly the last words. It was the last conversation.
Okay, that wasn't my question. My question is a simple one. In a previous hearing, did you use the phrase "her last words to him"?
Yes,
Were
I did.
any?
I did.
And that was at a hearing where you were under oath, just like you are now, correct?
Correct.
That was a little closer in time than we are now. It was maybe a year ago, correct?
Correct.
Actually, my mistake. It was about 2.5 years ago. It was a grand jury, correct?
Grand jury was before. Yes.
Okay. And the phrase that you used was, and I want to concentrate on that for just a quick second, Firefighter Becker.
Sure.
The phrase that you used at that time was that she said, quote, like her last words to him. She was upset about her, quote, last words to him. Is that right?
I object.
All right, can I see counsel at sidebar, please?
Sidebar. Let's get in a sidebar of our own with our guest who is standing by this hour, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Rob Corbett. Rob, there's a moment that has me scratching my head during this cross-examination. It has to do with Karen Reed saying that she was John O'Keefe's husband at the scene, which didn't seem like a big deal. Perhaps the paramedic got it wrong or the friend said it, but on cross-examination, Alan Jackson wanted to really hone in on the fact that perhaps it was about HIPAA and she wanted to make sure she got information. I think he could have let that go, but now it makes me think she was more deliberate, even though she was supposed to be hysterical at the time.
Yeah, I agree in terms of it does look like that it is a inconsistency, and every inconsistency doesn't have to be followed up on cross-examination. So if there's something that's written down, if you say that the EMT wrote down incorrectly, then maybe he's attempting to show that these are other things that could have been done incorrectly as well. But he's also showing in terms of trying to drive home her demeanor at the time. And it looks like both sides, prosecution and defense, are focusing on that. The defense is trying to show that the way that she reacted is appropriate for someone in that type of scenario. And obviously the prosecution wanting to hone in on it is the argument, and is the argument that led up to her killing her husband that night.
Yeah, boyfriend. But does it really matter? It's easy to mix up.
I
don't-
totally agree with you. It's ridiculous because it does have you now thinking, wow, that's second level stuff. She's like screaming and then thinks to herself, I'll lie, I'll con these people thinking that I'm a husband, then I'll get the information about his health condition.
Which then blocks the O'Keefe family if they're there in the hospital trying to be the ones who are in control.
For Jackson to bring it up as if it was this endearing, like, well, she's really smart, so she did that. I disagree. We'll see if Brendan jumps on it with the redirect. Let's get a break. When we come back, more Karen Reed. It's the retrial in the state of Massachusetts. This is, unfortunately, the last witness of the day. It's a short day. We'll get you back into the courtroom for more testimony right after this.